Is it 6? Hello, and welcome to the Year 48 CDBG Public Input Meeting. We are representing City of Davenport staff. I am Heather Johnson, the Community Development Resource Manager here with the city, and I work with our federal grants and compliance. And I am here with Megan Overton, who is our Neighborhood Development Coordinator, and she handles our annual plan, which includes the public input process, and then some of our federal reporting. So we will get started here with our public meeting, but I did want to let you know that we do have microphones turned off for everyone. You will be able to comment, and we do welcome your comments, but you will need to type them into the chat box. We do need to make a record of the comments that we receive. So if you have any questions or comments that you want to share, please do type them into the chat box. We will be recording this session and making it available on our website. So if you are a person who is watching this recording later rather than live, you too can comment in any way that you would like. And we've shared our email addresses here at the bottom of the screen, and you can submit your comments in writing through the bottom of the screen there through email. So with that, I think that we will get started with a little bit of background on the Community Development Block Grant Program. So CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grant. It's a program that was established by Congress back in 1974, and it is administered by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The program is intended to improve the neighborhoods and situations of low and moderate income residents of the city of Davenport. And it can do that in a variety of ways. We'll talk about all the different categories that are eligible under CDBG here in the following slides. So some of the ways that the funding can be used there's quite a variety of them. However, the key thing to remember with all community development block grant funding is that it has to meet one of the 3 national objectives of the community development program. And the community development program, again, is intended to primarily serve low and moderate income residents of the city of Davenport. And so the national objectives, the ways that you can serve them are by benefiting low and moderate income persons directly through services and programs that reach out to them directly as individuals. You can serve them through the prevention or the elimination of slum and blight with the understanding that many low-income neighborhoods also suffer from some blighting conditions. And here I would just make a comment that the word slum and blight is not a local definition. That is a definition set by HUD. It's not a phrase that you typically hear these days used very often, but you do have to remember the program was established in 1974, and the language that they use then has not necessarily been updated. So when they talk about slum and blight, what they're really talking about is blighting conditions in neighborhoods. So those would be broken windows and deteriorating buildings and lack of lighting and poor street conditions and things like that. And then the other national objective is one that we don't use very often, and it is called urgent needs. So it's used to meet urgent community development needs due to serious and immediate threats to health and safety of the community. And in past years, I would always say it's extremely rare. You never hear of cities using urgent need. Obviously, in the time of COVID, there are certain things that can be done under this national objective, but there are also quite a few restrictions that can come into play. So urgent need, even still in the time of COVID, is not a super common way to use CDBG funding because the restrictions are pretty strict. So the thing to remember then with CDBG funding is that all of the dollars have to go to serve low and moderate income residents and low and moderate income neighborhoods in one way or another. So when we talk about low and moderate income, what are we talking about? I think there's a perception that the HUD programs serve extremely low income people, and they do. But I think there's a misperception about what low and moderate income actually is. And so HUD sets the definition for low and moderate income, and they update it every year. So displayed here are our current low and moderate income thresholds, and you can see it's by household. So the CDBG program allows funding to be spent on households up to 80% of median family income. And you can see for a single person, that's a lot of money. $42,750 for a single person is still considered low and moderate income under the CDBG program. So these are many times households that are working, that sometimes are just working in low-wage jobs. They are out there in the community, they have kids. A lot of times you see it's by household size, so it may be that they're low income not because they're not getting a lot of income, but maybe they have a larger household size. So you can see for a household of 4, we can serve up to $61,050. And when you have a greater size of a household, there's just a lot more expenses that you have, and that can put a strain on your finances that a smaller household wouldn't have. And so the HUD program allows you to, allows the city to serve people all the way up to that 80% limit. But we can absolutely serve everyone and anyone beneath that limit. So we do tend to serve a gamut of people from extremely low all the way up to the 80% and everything in between. And so at different income levels, there's different needs, and the CDBG program will fund those different needs. And I do see that we had someone join us, and I just did want to reiterate what I said at the top, which is we welcome everyone in joining us. We welcome your comments. We do have to make a record of the comments, so if you do have anything to share, we do ask that you type it into the chat box, questions, comments, or things that you would like addressed. The purpose of the meeting is to gather public input for the upcoming annual plan year, which begins July 1st of 2022. So this is kind of the first step in the process. And we did want to let you know that you absolutely can comment, but please do so via chat. And then towards the end of the presentation, we'll go back to the beginning and show you the first slide. We do have some email addresses that if you have written comments that you would like to share via email, or if you would like to share this presentation, it will be recorded and made available on our website, and anybody after the live presentation is welcome to comment via email, and we'll share those email addresses with you. That is kind of the overview of what low moderate income is. So how does Davenport use CDBG funding, or how does the CDBG funding work for the city? So the CDBG program is what's called an entitlement program. That means that the city will be granted funding every year, but the amount of funding is dependent on a lot of factors. So there's no guarantee of any particular dollar amount from year to year, but there is a promise that funding will be granted as long as the city continues to meet the requirements of the program and the annual plan requirements, the reporting requirements, and maintains eligibility of the activities that they're doing. So every year the city receives over $1 million. In the current year, we're receiving about $1.6 million. The dollar amount fluctuates quite a bit. In our highest year, which was back in 2002, we received almost $2.3 million, but we are down to 1.6 at the moment, and that is not our lowest point. Our lowest point was $1.1 million, which was several years ago. So we've actually come back up a little bit from our low, but the program as a whole is still down more than 40% since the high years in the early 2000s. So need continues to grow, and funding continues to shrink, or at least fluctuate at the lower end of the scale. So the grant is managed through our Community and Economic Development Program, or staff, and that is Megan and I who handle at least the planning and reporting side of things. And then we have other staff that operate programs and oversee some of our subrecipients to ensure that we remain in compliance and continue to receive the funds from HUD. But as I mentioned a few slides ago, they can only be used for eligible activities, and those eligible activities are things that serve low and moderate income households, and they meet those national objectives we talked about, which are direct benefit to low and moderate income individuals, benefit to low and moderate income areas, and that urgent need criteria. So who can apply for funding? So how it works is that through this planning process, needs are identified, and then agencies and city departments can apply for funding to help meet those needs. And those eligible applicants are city departments and nonprofit agencies. And then those departments and agencies go out and serve the low or moderate income people directly. So it's kind of a two-step process. You have to have an entity to deliver a program, and then you have a low and moderate income beneficiary of that program. So with that, I'm going to hand the process over to Megan Overton. She is our Neighborhood Development Coordinator, and she is in charge of creating our annual plan and gathering up the public input for that. And again, just as a reminder, you're welcome to contribute comments. If you have noticed in the chat box, Megan has helpfully dropped in the email addresses, so if you want to chat, drop your comments in chat, you can, and if you would prefer to send them by email afterwards, the email addresses are there for you. So with that, I will hand it over to Megan.
All right, thank you, Heather. So as Heather mentioned, we are collecting public input for our Year 48 plan year that starts July 1st of 2022. So now we're going to go over the different program areas that we have and kind of explain the programs that the city currently funds, and then ask for your comments and ideas for each of those. So we're going to reference this map for input. We'll use this for questions, so you can reference it geographically. If there's a specific area of the city you would like to see a type of program, an area that needs need. We can also do citywide comments. It's just a way to kind of narrow it down a little bit for you. The map will be shown on each of the slides. So we're going to start with public services. So public service programs are programs and activities such as youth services, homeless services, mental health services, domestic violence services, and other social service eligible agencies. The city runs a subrecipient program, so it provides grants to eligible nonprofit agencies that provide direct services to low and moderate income Davenport residents. This is a competitive grant. Our subrecipients must apply annually for the funding. Our application period starts at the end of the year, where applications are due at the beginning of the following year. If you'd like more information about that, you can always contact us, and we'd be happy to walk through that with you. So for public services, what type of public services do your customers, your clients, your participants, or you need in Davenport? And then where would you like to see these public services improved upon in Davenport? Maybe we're missing an area of the city that maybe needs a youth group or something like that. So we'll give you a few minutes if you'd like to put your comments in the chat box, and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, now we're going to move on to economic development. So our economic development program are activities that support business development, job creation, technical assistance to businesses, and commercial rehab. So the city currently runs a small business loan program and a commercial facade loan program. So again, here's our map. What kind of economic development would you like to see in Davenport? Where would you like to see it? Is there a specific type of economic development that the city needs? Would you like to see job services somewhere? Is there building renovation or building rehab that needs to be done for commercial corridors? That sort of thing. So if you'd like to put your comments in the chat, we'll give you a few A little bit of time to do that. All right. So our next section is housing and development. So housing and development programs are activities that support home ownership, housing rehabilitation, rental housing, and other activities that are connected with housing. The city runs an owner-occupied housing rehab loan that can address things like code violations, help with mechanicals, roofs, that sort of thing. The Urban Homestead Program, the Home Buyer Down Payment Program, and an Exterior Accessibility Grant. So again, here is our map. What type of housing development does Davenport need? And then with that, where would you like to see the housing development in Davenport? I'll give you a few minutes to put your comments in the chat, and we'll move on to our next program. All right, and then our final program area is infrastructure improvement. Infrastructure improvement programs are activities for publicly owned facilities and infrastructure such as streets, playgrounds, and underground utilities. Infrastructure projects need to be located in a primarily residential area and also a low to moderate income area. City programs that we run currently are infrastructure in support of affordable housing. So that would be sidewalks, accessible corners in a low LMI area, and then building demolition of blighted buildings. So where would you like to see the infrastructure improvements in Davenport? And then what type of infrastructure improvements would you like to see in Davenport? You can use the chat feature and put your comments. All right. Well, that concludes our public input meeting. So some other ways to participate. So one would be if you're watching this video recorded, this will be available through the end of our public comment period, which is Friday, September 17th. So you can provide your comments to us via email on any of the stuff we've discussed. And if you have ideas, comments, anything you'd like to provide to us. And then you can also take our community survey. Our community survey is also open till Friday, September 17th. It's through SurveyMonkey. There's a link there on your screen. And then you also have an opportunity to attend our open house at the Freight House Farmers Market. It is open house style. You can just stop by our public input table. Our third session will be held Saturday, September 11th, and the farmers market is open from 8 to 1 p.m. So I'd like to thank you guys for attending our virtual public input meeting. Our office phone number is there at the top. It's 563-326-7765. If you have any questions, you can always contact us that way, or I will go back to the beginning for mine and Heather's emails. And you can also email us anytime with comments or questions about the process. And if there are no further questions or comments, that will be it for tonight.